Now, revolutionary greetings to you all, comrades. Permit me to recognize your presence, those who are already with us, and to apologize for my absence in terms of contribution, even though I have been able to follow up, but not to actively participate in terms of contribution. Now, I want also to thank members of our class who have actually ensured that our sessions continue irrespective of what it takes. So thank you very much, Sir Windhoek, Sister Grace, General Naki, and also permit me to recognize the presence of Tim. I believe Tim probably is your first time joining us, or is your second time, and we will allow you first of all to introduce yourself before we start our reading so that you can know you. We know Sister Grace from Malawi, Sir Gerard Naki from South Africa, Sir Windhoek from Namibia, and other members who do join us who have not so far arrived. This is the Pan-African Reading Club. We read books that are chosen by members. And this book, Defeating the Dictators, was then fronted sometimes back. And we've done the reading for almost a year now, or close to a year. We, the Pan-African Reading Club, which is hosted as well by Consciousness Study Group, do also have the Pan-African Library. Our library actually boasts of over now close to 8,000 soft copy books on Telegram channel that are either written by Africans or are pro-Africa or Black community. It is then my humble pleasure to formally invite you and welcome you to our session today, where we are going to continue with our reading of chapter 7 of this book, Defeating the Dictators. We have looked previously from modus operandi of the dictators, types of dictatorship, and so many other things in the past 6 chapters. In this chapter 7, we have looked at various strategies, which includes, of course, the alliance of the opposition, amongst other key topics. And therefore today, we start straight after we just finished the need for free media. And the media is still going to appear in our reading today. So today we look at another strategy, which is the battle plan. Defeating a dictator is a battle. It is not an easy thing. We might have disagreements, and we've had it before, on who is a dictator. But irrespective of your personal definitions on who fits to be a dictator, we all agree that they must be defeated in whatever form or means. And therefore, let's learn or listen to what Haiti doctor is trying to propose as the battle plan. Just for discussion, the views written here are for the author and not our view as individuals, nor is it our view as a group. And we as a group do not also have a common view, but we respect individual views, which we then don't call views, but call them thinking. So we don't limit the level of your thinking, and we allow you to think the way you want. You are at liberty to disagree with the author, and at a time, also agree with the author. That is your right. But we just interested to learn what we can learn and to also listen to what you think. As per our traditions, we do ask a member to read for us the reading. And in this case for today, we will read the entire subtopic of the battle plan from the message to the other elements, disbanding the military and the rest. There are almost 7 strategies here under the battle plan. So we will start by reading under the message. Once you're done with the message, we share our thinking on that. Then if time allow, we go to the next, to the next, to the next. Our programs and sessions are always 2 hours maximum. We have started late. We are now 44 minutes into our session because members did not attend on time or in time. And therefore, we are left with 1 hour, 15 minutes. So please, let's start. And before you do that, as I've requested, please, Comrade Timothy or Tim, can introduce yourself so that you can know who was also with us. Comrade Tim?
Okay, hello. Great to hear from you all, and thank you for allowing me to join. My name is Tim. I'm from the UK, but family are from Jamaica. I am in Ghana right now, and yes, I'm quite interested in Africa when it comes to the economy, and I write often about it on my own Substack page. But I'm here to learn, like everyone else, and yeah, thank you for setting this up and allowing us to join and become a part of it. Thank you.
Uh, you are most welcome, Comrade Tim, and thank you for finding time to be with us. We hope you'll find more time regularly to join us. This session takes place every Monday. It was taking place every Sunday for the past almost 1 year, and we move it to every Monday, same time, the Ghana time. We use Ghana time for all our sessions. Apart from this, we have a Thursday session for the Consciousness Study Group, where we study consciousness. I hope and I know you are aware or familiar of Consciousness, the book written by Kwame Nkrumah. We probably are the only study group that has been studying that book for the last 4 years or 3 years, every Thursday without a miss. And our recordings are always available on our same YouTube channel. So we look forward to you also joining us on that Thursday, if time allows, same 6 p.m. If you put your contacts on the broadcast on the chat, probably Sir Windhoek might pick or anybody, so that I can add you in our broadcast list where you can get notifications. Whoever shared the notification for this meeting is myself, and I do share it anytime. So if you have my contact as well, you can also get in touch with me directly via WhatsApp. We also have every Saturday conversation on the unification of Africa that has been going on for the last 2 years. So you are also welcome, same time, 6 p.m. That's what we do as Consciousness Study Group. Having said that, permit me to request any member in a position to read the text shared, please. Anybody? Any member? As you think about that, just give me a second as I try to sort something. But any member who's willing, please prepare to read for us the paragraph highlighted.
Sanctions. Sister Chisomo.
Now I'm back. I can read. Can I?
Sorry, I
Go
can't
ahead, please.
today. Thanks.
Go ahead, Brother
Okay,
PG.
let me read. Now, the subtopic is the battle plan. The author says, a good battle plan will include the following elements. The first one is creating a strong message. The second one is disbanding the military. The third one is confronting despots with their own constitutions. The fifth one is circumventing restrictions on freedom of expression. The other one is choosing carefully the opposition media. And another one that caught my attention is setting up an opposition militia. And lastly, severing the props of the despotic regime. Now let's look at the message. The message of freedom must be carefully crafted in such a way that it does not play into the hands of a paranoid despot. Therefore, avoid using terms such as universal values. Paranoid Chinese officials interpret that as a code name for Western values. Very interesting. For similar reasons, such words as liberty, capitalism, or even democracy should be avoided. Very interesting as well. Instead, use equivalents as freedom, market economy, which I have issues with, and political choice or freedom. Secondly, the message of freedom must be clean and unadulterated. It must never be allowed to be contaminated or polluted by religious zealotry, ideology, or ethnocentrism, or even elitism. For far too long and far too often, the cause of freedom has been hijacked by certain groups to advance their own sectarian agenda. The message of freedom should never be allowed to be mixed up with the religion, ethnocentrism, or ideology. The international community cannot defend the human rights of a group whose ideology and beliefs are intolerant of other people's human rights. Very interesting. Moreover, the message, for example, Islam is the solution, is not appropriate to preach in Africa, nor are the messages like Christianity is the solution or Marxism is the solution. Therefore, religion is not an issue that will unite Africans. Very interesting. Indeed, when Egyptians poured into the streets to demand that Mubarak steps down in January 2011, the demonstration chanted that Tunisia is the solution. In fact, organizers of the street protest in Egypt on January 28, 2011, called on people to come out in force, stressing that the religion of the protester was not relevant. Therefore, the message must be culturally anchored and relevant so that it does not appear to be borrowed. Therefore, using elements of the country's own cultural history or constitution is helpful. For example, Filipino protesters sang Bayan Ko, which meant my homeland, which became a patriotic anthem of the opposition in the year 1983. The Song of Estonia undergirded the singing revolution in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania in the late 1980s. It was The beautiful jasmine flower is a Chinese folk song that was the tune of the Beijing's 2008 Olympics. But after Tunisian Jasmine Revolution, the Chinese communist officials were so jittery that they scrubbed the song off internet search engine. Very interesting. Africa writers can rail against modern day despotism by drawing upon their own rich cultural history and traditional institutions, telling how despotic tendencies were checked and how bad chiefs and kings were removed from office. Examples should be given, and I think we look at them in our previous chapters. And relating stories of indigenous revolution, such as the Yoruba Kirikiri and the Itwika of the Gikuyu, that were also mentioned in chapter 3 of this book. Therefore, the despot's name need not to be mentioned. Very interesting. But the interference is that his rule is un-African and therefore illegitimate. Let me repeat that. Very interesting. That the despot's name need not to be mentioned. But the inference is that his rule is un-African and therefore illegitimate. Now, this author, who is Dr. George Aiti, is saying here that he has employed this tactic frequently. Now, second, which should be third, the message must be purposeful and have an objective. A message that simply insults the president or says Mugabe must go won't achieve much. Very interesting. A purposeful message is one that A, portrays the regime as alien or illegitimate, and B, portrays the regime as criminal or breaking its own laws, C, seeks to weaken the regime's resistance to reform, or D, creates division within regime or the security forces. Lastly, the message should never be about what type of religion, what type of ideology or president would be the best for the country. That's the reading of the first part. Now, please, let's share what you think. Sawinok, now will you help me chair the taking of comments on that text? I'll do the reading again because it will be very hard to read and chair, please.
Yeah, all right, Brother Pigeon. Thank you. I'll do that. Brothers and sisters, in the meeting, in the class, in the reading, once again, very welcome to this reading session. I'm sure Brother Pigeon has gone through the passage slow enough for everybody to grasp the gist in the passage. Therefore, I'm calling on you, brothers and sisters, for everyone who have got a comment. Obviously, we all have got thinking. Who has got a question to either raise their hands or to just unmute and start speaking. Thank you. I don't see any hands. Sister Chisomo, you always lead the conversation. If you want to lead, the honor is yours.
I haven't got much voice today.
Audible enough.
If I
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Is somebody
So,
speaking?
Brother Tim.
yes, yes. So when you were reading the passage, when the passage was being read, I heard I think it was General Anunnaki. Is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes. So when you were reading, you mentioned that
No, no,
you
no,
don't.
no. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, Brother Tim. My name is not General Anunnaki. My name is Sir Venduk.
Okay. So yes, when you were reading, you said that you
Brother
don't
Tim,
agree with the use of the word market economy, or you don't agree with it. Could you,
Brother Tim,
tell me more about that?
Brother Tim, the
Thank
person
you.
who was reading is message is not Sawindo.
Yeah, but Brother Pigeon, you can go ahead. You can go ahead and answer that question.
Now, that is my personal opinion. The market economy. I don't agree that we should allow the market to run the economy, because that's basically more of the capitalist model. The economy must be run by the people, not the market. So the element of demand and supply that applies on the market and then informs the basis of capitalism. And basically, I'm seeing in this case, the author is trying to sandwich capitalism with using the word market economy. But that is, as I've said, is my personal opinion. Thank you.
Brother Tim, are we now on the same wavelength?
Okay, yes, I understand. It is interesting though because this author, George Ayeti, was quite a free market fundamentalist. He was very, very pro free market and was a big champion of it. But I can see the skepticism surrounding it. But yeah, just wanted to share that. But thank you.
Brother Pigeon. Brother Pigeon, I think
Brother.
Brother Kwame had the same opinion about George Aidi. That he was did he say he was a confused economist, or what did he say at some point?
No, Brother Tim is an economist. As his introduction, in our class, we have Brother Coco, also an economist in UK from Lesotho. We have Brother Kwame, also an economist in terms of profession. And two economists have expressed contrary opinion based on Brother George Aiti's leaning too much to capitalism. Of course, as an economist, maybe he's allowed, is his own thinking. And I don't think every economist is a capitalist, whether you are an economist by profession. So that has been the key issue some of us and some others, even in the past, have expressed against Dr. George Aiti, that he was more capitalist and in favor of the so-called markets economies and the rest, which appear to be more capitalist in terms of the Pan-African direction. So that has been an expression by myself as well, by Brother Kwame, who is a professional economist, by Brother Coco, who is also an economist in our circle, and it might not be the general opinion or thinking of entire economists. Some might also support his market economy if you look at that direction. Because we have some who support capitalism, and most of economists in the continent actually will speak in support of capitalism than the other way around. And that also, we learn a lot from what Kwame Nkrumah teaches in his book Consciousness in the introduction on the effect of colonial education. Because then it introduces you to policies, ideologies, and philosophies. It takes you away from your condition, your environmental condition, which then takes you to another world. And for you to link back to your condition or your environmental setup becomes very hard after you've gone through the process. So the tracing back of your route to who you are, because the process you go through that such colonial education, and not colonial education, the current education actually across the continent, it takes away your so-called Ubuntu or your Africanness in you and try to teach you about liberalism and globalization and so many other things. That tune also your thinking and your studies and your approach in a global thinking without taking into consideration your material condition or your historical background as a person. And that's how we lose some of us in that process, that they are not able then back to link whatever they've learned and how it relates with their material condition or their historical background. So that's also what I wish to share. But I've said this my thinking.
Thank you, Brother Pigeon. Sister Kanita, Sister Tapua, thank you once again for joining the session. And Sister Chisomo, the floor was yours. Brother Tim, are you happy now?
No, yes, yeah, I'm happy. Thank you for that detailed answer. I would say for me, I am more of a pro-market economy person just because, like, being here in Ghana right now, or thinking of the other places I've visited throughout Africa, I just find that the government can't really run anything. You know, whether it's like um, yeah, and then yeah, as I traveled, I began to see this contrast where you look at public goods, whether it's the street lights, the roads, maybe other connected infrastructure, that it's the government's responsibility to maintain and improve. You, you know, it usually fails, but then when you actually go to whether it's privately run residential estates, privately run, you're beginning to get like even within Ghana, I think there's a few like private estates and private towns like Ayimensa Park and a few others where yes, you see how things are when the private sector gets a chance to take on that responsibility, to take on more responsibilities. And, at times there may be issues surrounding access as far as the cost of these services and what have you. But then, you know, like, yeah, when you go to these private cities and what have you, the roads are in good condition, things work. So that's why I'm quite skeptical of, but yeah, I'm more supportive of the market economy versus what an alternative might be, which involves a government taking control. Because yeah, just looking at what I see around me, at least in the government form, it's like they can't run anything. It's only when it's delegated to the private sector and decentralized, to multiple businesses across different communities, that things actually seem to kind of like work and we make progress. So that would be my take.
Thank you. Thank you,
So
Brother Tim. Yes. Come again?
Now, I don't want to draw this conversation further, but it doesn't mean that our communal systems or socialism or Ubuntu setups of our society before interaction with the West world was not perfect. The empires and the great empires of either the kingdoms of Nubian kingdoms, Thebes, and all those other kingdoms we talk about were not built on capitalist model or individualism, because the underlying purpose of market economy and capitalism is individualism. And that's what then breed what you call private thing. Private comes from individual, not group. I'm private. So the great civilizations that still stand up to date, right from Egypt and across the world, were never built by individualism or private entity. The African great civilizations and institutions and the universities where the whole world came for wisdom was not founded on individuals or private ownership. That's the first thing I want to point out to. But yes, there has been failure of government to do that which it should do. And indeed, initiatives owned by private individuals has been successful in the current world. But the failure of government to do what it should do for people is not because the government is owned by the people and not owned by individuals. It is just lack of identifying our true Ubuntu, Utu, socialism, and our communal existence, and how we can see each other as brothers and sisters and do that which is good for us. And that's why government won't care to build road for others, those in government, not government per se, but those in governments. Those in government will not care to have clean water, as brother is saying, running systems of sewer, and everything else that the society need to have. But again, government should not be doing things for profit purposes. Because in our communal existence or social existence, socialism, per se or Ubuntu, we were not doing things for purpose of somebody going to pay more money for it or because it's going to be more profitable. And I believe the governments across the continent are now not becoming public entities, but private entities. By now privatizing everything, while the revenue are not collected by individual alone, it's a collective of citizens that put the revenue for a country. But then the ownership of things in the country want to go to the private hands in terms of who is going to do the road. But the money comes from everyone else. So failure of government to do what is right should not be the reason to support, to my own opinion, private ownership. We must just have leaders who are conscious enough to know our Ubuntu, our Utu, our social and communal existence, and appreciate that we are as a collective, and that the position of political power are just trust of the collective to do what the collective want for themselves, rather than to steal. Because finally, as I find this, as much as those in government do not do anything constructive or perfect for the public, they do a lot for themselves by stealing a lot of money from us. And even those so-called private owners or private enterprises are persons who are either in governments, have relatives in governments, or have connections in governments. Basically, you cannot separate between an individual and a government, because a government is collective of individuals. And that's what I can say as the end of this. So this just, I don't want to take it more of like a rebuttal, but it's something we can also appreciate and have a conversation on. We don't restrict thinking and anybody want to think in that line or contrary to that line. Back to you, Sawinder.
Thank you, Brother Bijin. Sister Grace, please, I held you waiting for long. Back to the passage. Go ahead, please.
It's okay for now. I'll pass for now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the next person can go ahead.
Anyone else who has got a comment, addition, question, please unmute and take the floor. There's no one. I will call on General. Long time. Tell us something.
Elderly, give thanks. Give thanks to everyone at large. So where am I commenting? On the highlighted sentence? Or
On the passage, the whole passage that we
the
have
whole
read.
passage?
Yeah.
I do highlights on some few words that I think caught my attention, but every member is allowed to comment on the entire passage you've read. Whether what I've highlighted also might interest you to comment on is okay. But as we always do on Thursday, we comment on the entire passage, and you have your own style to do it. Back to you.
I give thanks for merely blessed. Okay. No, what I'll say, based on the give thanks, first of all, for the reading, for the sharing, and for everyone who continues to share as Black intellects in this time era. I'll just comment basically on the last sentence, the last paragraph mostly, where it says that yeah, sure, thank you. So it says here, the message should not be about what type of religion, ideology, or president would be best for the country. So I love that quote because it clearly states that when we're talking about Pan-Africanism or African, we must understand that we have, as in terms of analytical psychology, something I'm currently studying. We find that um, we have personal, we have a personal space, and then we have the, for lack of a better term, the national space or the external space. So that also comes into factor with the society or your environment, which comes to say that if you're a Pan-African and you so happen to have a white man who is your best friend and the Chinese who is your best friend. Now, on a national level, the Chinese and the Europeans are the enemies of Africans, as you can see what's happening now socio-economically. But on your personal capacity, you are good friends with that white man or that Chinese man, and you guys have good relations, you see. But now when it comes to your people against his or her people, the relationship is still as it is today. You understand? So that message for me, it reminds me of that we as Africans, we have a problem of mixing up the personal uh, relations we have with other nations who are non-Africans with the national relations, which are two different things. Which basically means, in conclusion, that the primary objective of an African mindset should operate on that level of the national relationship with non-Africans, but maintain or continue to be diplomatic with the personal relations he or her or she has with other nations. Blessed.
Thank you, General. But usually and normally, your personal relationship with that person of that nationality generally dictates how you would see that entire nationality. So if you've got a good friend of a Chinese, then you think all the Chinese are good for Africa. Thanks for cautioning that. That's a very important caution, not to mix personal relations with national relations. Anybody else who can build on that or who can comment on that or who can give an example related to that, you are most welcome. However, everyone is entitled to their own opinion and they can comment on their own accord. Thank you very much, General. Anybody else? Brother Pigeon, you want to comment on that?
No,
As a
I'm
resource
continuing to
person?
just highlight. I'm continuing to highlight some of the various
Thank
quotes
you.
that were very interesting. Members can decide to choose them, either to comment on that or just do a general comment. But I'll also comment later. Let me just continue highlighting some of the quotes.
Thank you. Sister Ganita, greetings.
Greetings from Ghana, and greetings to everybody.
To sort of piggyback on what our brother just said, it is noteworthy that so many continental Africans, particularly those here in Ghana, are of the nearly universal mindset that the white man's water is wetter, the ice is colder. In other words, the educational system is superior, the medical system is superior. And there's no basis for this other than to just say it. When people make these statements, they're not qualifying it in any particular area, they're just making a statement. So one of the things, for instance, that I like to bring to the forefront in these conversations that I've been having with people through the years is there are over 200 top universities in the African continent. In the United States, every year, and it's been this way for some time, over 1 million people die in U.S. hospitals for three main reasons. Just the three. We're not going to look at any other reasons, just the three. Those three reasons are doctors and nurses not properly washing their hands. That's the biggest one. Hospital-acquired infections and hospital errors. And then medications properly prescribed and properly taken. Properly prescribed and properly taken. Those three reasons kill over 1 million people every year in U.S. hospitals. When you consider the fact that Ghanaians, our population is arguably somewhere between 32 and 35 million, and then you think about 1 million people dying every year just from those three reasons in hospitals, not from any other reason, you can begin to see the impact on the population. But it also, more to my point, really begins to fly in the face of everything in America is better because it's America. So just like our brother is saying, my one white friend, my one Asian friend is great, so therefore they all must be great. We similarly say, I had a good experience here in Ghana with this American, so therefore America must be great. Or more commonly, look at American programming, which I think we all are likely to be aware is sub-quality because of the way the powers that be pick and choose what gets to be preferential in the media selection. So they're not even getting our documentaries, our positive stories and all these types of things. They're getting the stuff that sells, so to speak. So they're looking at that and they're rather saying America must be good because look at the videos. And when you ask people, why are you all forcing so hard to go to America? They'll say things like, you can make money there. And it's like, well, you do know that you also have to spend money. You do not, or do you think you're just going to go there and just get a paycheck and that's it? And people literally have not thought past that because of this bias that everything, America's the land flowing with milk and honey. So where this ties into with the text in terms of overthrowing, the battle plan, and you're looking at this regime and you got to put out this kind of message, you have to do this to the media, you have to do this to despots, you have to, et cetera. You can't do it with that kind of thinking. And it's not until you begin to tell people, let's compare the price of eggs. Let's compare the price of organic pineapples. Let's compare the income tax. Let's, and you just go down the list. Let's look at the number of mass shootings every year. Let's look at the homicide rates. Let's look at infant mortality rates. They're not exactly low in the beloved United States of America. And so it's not until you begin to take these types of tactical approaches that it also begins to, that you'll begin to make some headway where uh, countering bad leadership is concerned. If you try to gloss over that and to just follow any good plan that's put out there, surely these things that are festering in the hearts and minds and souls of people will sabotage the best laid plans. For example, you have people here in Ghana who are religious fanatics. This is a country of religious fanaticism. And yet, why is there so much pollution? Why is there so much open air burning, which is polluting? Why is there the spraying of Roundup, which contains glyphosate and all the things that it does, right? You would think somebody's God would have figured this out and pulled the plug. So this is an example of how these things can sabotage. And I like that the passage speaks about how religion is definitely not going to be the way forward when you're engaged in such tactical maneuvers, because it's not. Because of one of the examples that I just gave, your God is not even able to help you not pollute your country. So how are you gonna step up and do something on a higher level, such as counter corrupt leadership and arrest it, so to speak? So I like the things that's being said. I'm not familiar with this author, and I'm fairly sure I've not read any of the author's books. But in the passage that's been presented so far, I really like what I'm hearing, what I'm reading. I think that what I would add to the passage is that people need to take up African values, African philosophical values, African culture, tradition, and ways, all the way to take it to its full or to its natural outcome. Don't just come and do some things. Come and do everything that you can. In other words, it's Dr. Wade Nobles in his book Seeking the Saku calls it, you need to re-Africanize yourself from your name all the way down to everything else. Just re-Africanize everything. The other thing I would also add is that in terms of, I don't think that is not information that we lack so much as it is courage. And what happened in antiquity that people had so much more courage and audacity. When you look at the Haitian Revolution, that is one big chapter of courage on steroids. So what do we do to get people to grow in audacity, in courage, in bravery, so that we can even implement these types of things? It's not for the timid and the faint of heart and the thin skin. And it would be good to also see things in here that begins to speak toward how do we do that? How do we toughen and strengthen 4-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 60-year-olds? We've gotten too sensitive, too petty, too shallow, too shy, too weak to be able to embark on these noble journeys of liberation that we're discussing. So I think the thing to be added to it is also something that's going to help us all, wherever phase in life or walk in life we find ourselves in, to gain strength and boldness and courage and audacity. So thank you for allowing me to share. The power just went out again. And so I don't know how much longer I have before I have to sign out, but thank you so much.
Thank you. Just subscribe for us some steroids, and we gather the necessary courage. Thank you, Sister Kanita. That was so. I'm so impressed. to say that to a certain power to try to want to make the change. Our bravery. In essence, we have become cowards. Thank you so much, Sister Kanita. Sister Grace, I've seen your hand. Please go ahead and share your thinking.
No, it was just to comment
Sister...
on what Sister has. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Go ahead.
It was
We can
just to
hear you,
comment
Sister
on
Grace.
it was just to comment on what Sister Kanita has just said in terms of why the Africans on the continent are always looking to the West and wanting to go there. And also what has happened recently with the young boy that's in Africa today, when there's been so much reaction, and especially from America, and including the continent. But because we don't know our own continent anyway until somebody shows us in that manner. So there's been discussions about why Black America is reacting so much to what they've seen, and that they didn't know that Africa was like that. And then the Africans are hitting back saying, how did you not know? You should have looked it up. Did you think we really lived in trees and blah, blah, blah? But what people do not understand or do not know is that what we see in the different parts of the world is different. That's just the way the internet is designed. So even if the Americans want to really search, they won't see what what's his name, Speed has just shown. They won't necessarily see that much. We've been on the internet, we're from the continent, but we still didn't, we've never had the experience that he had, and also what he's just shown us. And again, what happened with football yesterday. In fact, I didn't know that there was a fight at the football, although I was watching it from somewhere else. I didn't see that side of what happened in football. So people have got to understand that it's the information you're getting, the information you've had, the information you can access that you base your decisions on or your actions on. So questioning each other as to why you didn't know is not a fair assessment of what the other one is feeling, or because there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of that we didn't know, even father, because father used to say, we're not African, until he saw what his son has shown. Now he's just talking about Africa and wanting to go to Africa. So because of the algorithm, we don't see the same information or the same level of information. And also, even if the Africans were able to access what's going on in the West, again, data is restricted by design. You even if you wanted to, you won't see that much. And then to comment on the religion side of things, in my country, we've just changed governments, and the last one was elected, or he had an advantage because people thought he was a religious man, he was the head of this religion, and therefore he's going to serve well. In fact, they called him a servant leadership. That's what they linked to religion and servant leadership. And servant leadership. But when he got into power, he did nothing religious. So perhaps he was advised not to, because there are so many religions in the country, and especially the Muslims were worried that he might ignore them or stuff like that, or they might be left out. So he did not. So the fact that he did not, then the people thought they've been betrayed. Why is he not using religion to direct the situation in the country? Instead, corruption has gone up, theft has gone up, um, um, disobedience and murders and all sorts of things that we've never seen before just shot up. The economy went down. And then they said, okay, let's get the one before back. So the one before back comes in. And he, because he's been on both sides, West and Africa, in terms of living and education and whatever, very, very exposed. And perhaps sometimes when we're reading this book, I say to myself, it looks like somebody has read these books when I observe what goes on in my country. So he's never affiliated himself to any religion. Actually, I don't know what his religion is, or which church he's connected to. He does not, he avoids that. So probably he understands this. He avoids that. And also, and also when it comes to perhaps capitalism and whatnot, this time he's come to try and work with the people on the ground, disperse all the resources and everything to the districts, basically decentralizing everything. So in the process of doing that, there comes a rule that says the implementation, the application of this program should not involve the ministers. So the ministers are shocked because it involves a lot of money per constituency or per district. So they're saying, no, we should be the ones running the money, obviously because they want a cut of the money or to including his own ministers, which is what's frightening, that his own ministers have turned around and said, no, we want to get involved. And yet they had agreed wherever with their party, their government, that that's how we're going to do it, decentralize everything. And the MPs literally saying they're going to go on strike, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And somebody brings in a private bill to say, no, it should be controlled, the money should be controlled by ministers. Yet the whole country, including anybody else, is saying no. So they passed the bill. And then the president says, I'm not signing it. So basically saying it's going to happen, it's not happening. If you want it your way, it's not going to happen. It has to be this way. So that's what's going on at the moment. Yeah, so the previous government was kind of doing what this book is saying not to do. And then the present government has said, make sure you don't do A, B, C, D. But obviously the current president is well knowledgeable and read, so he probably knows not to do stuff like that. So it's working out for him. People really like what he's doing, but his own ministers and civil servants are just about to let him down. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Chisomo. You are lucky. I was going to cut you. You remember yesterday I said I gave you extra time and I was going to cut it on this one, but I didn't. Thank you so much for your input. I'm shocked that the man of God is not delivering as per the word of God. Yeah, so it is very important that we should never rally to dethrone the despot with religious slogans. It will come to backfire, just like in your case, Sister Chisomo. Brother Tim, well expounded, Sister Chisomo. Brother Tim, your hand is up.
Yes, yes. So Chizoma Grace made a point about it seemed like, yeah, there was a lot of ignorance, whether it was, by Black people living in America or other Western countries about what life in Africa is like. And yeah, I've experienced that going back to the UK and just seeing that wall of ignorance. I think a big part of the reason why it exists, though, it's just simply down to the fact, and this is why, and yeah, I thank you so much for what you have here with this book club that's encouraging reading and literacy, as far as the fact that, yeah, I think a lot of us are ignorant about Africa because we just don't read. As a population, as a peoples, by and large, we don't really read that much. So, yeah, like I think for people who do read regularly, yeah, you don't find yourself in a position where you're ignorant about Africa because, like, yeah, you come across the text, so yeah, I think that reading issue contributes a lot to that point surrounding the ignorance. And also, yes, there was this point made about relations with non-Africans and the need to make a distinction between personal relations and national relations. And I do agree with that as far as with all countries, there's the government of that country and then there's the people of that country. And those two are usually not one and the same. Saying that, Carnita did raise a good point about how we see this mindset in Africa where the West is gold and, everybody wants to go there to work and to start a new life. Now, as to why that's the case, this is a tricky one because, yeah, even being here in Ghana, yes, you might see that for locals, if they see a white European, their treatment towards him might be different compared to their treatment towards me and others. Now, I'm not a fan of that, but on the other hand, I understand where the locals are coming from because there is another element of the reality in the way that for like me being in Ghana right now, for the Ghanaians on the ground, when they meet and interact with white people here, and from what they see of it, they see white people coming into their country and at least visually, what they see is them building, whether they're building businesses, building infrastructure, building orphanages, building hospitals. They are out there and they're building in a way that a lot of us, as the diaspora in Ghana, are not building. So it does become that situation where I get it. I get where if a Ghanaian bumps into me as a member of the diaspora, they might not take yeah, they mu yeah, like they're going by what they see on the ground, and I think the message there is that we as black people, particularly the diaspora, just basically need to step our game up and make ourselves more visible because yeah, they're looking at, oh, whether it's the Lebanese, whether it's the British, whether it's the Italians, and they're seeing what they're coming here and what they're building, whether it's in the construction sector, whether it's to do with retail, and then they look at other groups like us and they see, oh, these guys don't really have much for us. They don't have anything for us. Oh, but there's these Chinese people do, or these Indians do. So it's just worth considering as far as, yeah, what is it that we can also do to work together to build economically, whether that's to do with farming, infrastructure, actually expanding the capacity of the country and adding value in a way that, yeah, dispels those stereotypes. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brother Tim. Thank you very much. Having touched on the diaspora a little bit, you are more than welcome to come back and expound more if you so wish. Sister Tapua and Brother Tim, I have left my contact in the chat. If you can share your contacts with me so that we can keep you on the list for future notifications. Thank you. Sister Tapua.
Hello everyone.
Greetings.
Sorry I joined the meeting late. So I'm a bit at sea because I might repeat things that have already been said. But
As long as it is your thinking. As long as it is your thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would like to comment on the courage that our sister has said we must have,
Yeah.
because courage comes from understanding that something must be overcome. So a lot of this is by design, because the colonialists made sure we aspired to assimilate and join them. And therefore, that does not require courage. And when they left us with systems that are pro them. And therefore, the result is clear. We still need people who have the courage to go the Traore way and say, we are not having this anymore, starting with the dress, starting with the way of governance, and just take the bull by the horns. Because we will not get far if we continue using the systems that we've been using. Unfortunately, fear can also creep in. Like my brother was saying, when he looks at the governance that's currently on the continent, it looks like it doesn't inspire confidence, which is why there's a tendency then to want to pivot to the open market. But there is nothing like open market. Um, when you look at it on the ground, it's the powerful getting for themselves over the weak. And that creates a problem. So until us as Africans have the courage to be confident that who we are works, and the world right now is looking at us to get back to who we are, to understand who we are, because it is about being human beings and being um, in tune with nature, in tune with our environment, in tune with ourselves, that we move away from the standards that the West have set for us. Because oftentimes I say to myself, what is it going to take for us to develop up to the standards of London when we know that London is built on plunder? And they want to make sure that we continue to despise ourselves when we know what neocolonialism is doing. Because the governments that we have, and I'm not saying they don't have their own ills, are the conduit that continues to perpetuate the exploitation of us by them. And therefore, the results show. The results utterly show. Because our governments and the people who are in the upper echelons of our particular political systems are aspiring to be the exploiters. And therefore, what they're doing is exactly what they saw the white men do to us. So instead of coming in to neutralize and to change the system, they've rather joined the exploiters, and we have become the minions, and we need to change that. So we need people with courage. We need people who understand who we are, starting from our identity, because it's only when you understand who you are that you're able to step up and say, no, this is not us. Let's be ourselves. I'll end there for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Tapua. Thank you so much. Sister Chisomo, 1 minute, please.
Yeah, no,
Sister
just
Grace.
to comment on, just to comment on what people see on the ground in the continent. There was an issue about how the white man or all these other people will go in and be perceived by our people, and they see good things in them, unlike in us. What's his name? Oh God, I've forgotten his name. Akon. Akon has commented on that and has been explaining to the to both sides as to what exactly happens that's different from what we see. So he talks about exactly as Tim said, what they see in white people or all these races when they come into the into Africa, into our countries, and people aspire to what they do. And Econ talks about how the West packages itself. So it's at the end of the day about packaging. So when these people come into our countries, they have a strategy to attract attention, get the priority, get the resources, access, everything. They know, they've studied us. They know what will get them to us to look up to them. So it's the same with the West. They package it. He talks about the way America packages its American dream. So that's what people see, but they don't see what's happening on the ground, and also how much you have to work to earn that money. And like Sister Kanita said, when you earn that money, it's not, you've not just earned it, you've then got to spend it. And when you spend it, what are you left with? So all that side of things is not shown, is not, they make sure it's not shown. The poverty side of America is not shown. You just see the good things. So our people fall for it. And even if you explain to them, I want to go and see for myself until they get there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brother
Thank you
Window,
so much, Sister. Yes,
yeah, permit me to
I
come
was
in to allow
coming to
you also
you.
to share.
I
No, I want to
was, I was, Brother Pigeon, hold on a bit.
Yes,
Brother Pigeon, hold on a bit.
yes, I can hear.
Fix your mic, please. Fix,
Hello, can you hear
fix
me?
your mic, please. Now I can hear you.
Now I'm coming in to enable you to also share your thinking, please.
Now, Brother Pigeon, the power that you have given to me to share this meeting, thank you for your consent. But I have run this meeting to dedicate the last 10 minutes to your thoughts. As you were highlighting a lot of passages there, you have got a lot to share with us, and our time is no more on our side. And please go ahead and share your thinking. And Sister Ganita, the white man's water is wetter. Thank you. Brother Pigeon.
Now, Sawindok, next time I request you to share in the meeting, I'll first of all maybe start by you sharing your thinking before you chair, so that I also give you the leverage to share your thinking. But sometimes, out of chairing most of meetings, you end up also forming your thinking in the process of people sharing. So you end up maybe having nothing to share anymore.
Exactly the
Which
point.
can be assumed. Yeah. Now, I am going to very fast analyze few things. The first one is that the author said so many, almost 7 things that need to be worked on, elements. And we will be looking into them as we move along. Today, we've started with the message. And I think there's something we are learning here. Some are cautions, some are advice. The author is telling us that we should not have universal talks, things that are too general.
Yeah.
And for example, this example of the Chinese is very important. That when you go, oh, universal values, the people will say, are you talking about Western values? When you go with things, oh, we want liberty, oh, capitalism, we are fighting for democracy. And he says we should avoid them. But I'm also against also what he says we should also use, the equivalence. Oh, we should fight for freedom of market economy, political choice, or freedom of what? Because when I attended one of the interview in a TV show recently, as of course, you know, I'm a party leader and also a presidential aspirant, one of the presenter asked me one question. What is the use of all these infrastructures if people are sleeping hungry? What is the use of telling people you're taking them to Singapore, as our president is saying, if they don't have food? So are they going to sleep hungry in Singapore? But again, I'm also interested on the text that the author said that The message should not be contaminated or polluted by religious zealotry, ideology, ethnocentrism, or elitism. It's very hard to avoid all this. But I think our sisters also mentioned that religion, as the author said somewhere, that no religion, in fact, let me just go to what the author said about religion. I've highlighted it. He said that religion is not an issue that will unite Africans. And when we want to defeat a dictator, we want a message that can rally and unite people against a dictator. How the message can also not suffer elitism. I think we know elitism is a danger to most of the messages. And when it's perceived to be elitist, it might not go far. But again, the author said that often at time, freedom has been hijacked by certain group who advance their own agenda. And Sawindok, I think we had several conversations on this one when we were looking at the Gen Z revolution in Kenya. Whether did it reach its totality to the end, or whether was it hijacked? And probably it's part of the few things that I think the author is trying to bring to us here. Because the political class then ended up hijacking the Gen Z protest agenda thing. And it's not only in Kenya. In many countries, when young people or a group that are concerned come out, their group of people come in to finish the work and take advantage of it. So that's also something you're seeing commonly, which I would also wanted to point out to. Then I wanted to point out also when he's insisting on the message, that the message must be culturally anchored and relevant so that it does not appear to be borrowed. Now that is the biggest task. So how do we tailor our message to reflect our personality as a people, our culture, our practice as a people? And he says, we can do this using elements of our country's own cultural history. Or even sometimes it says our constitution. And I think Tim has proposed a very good word, that we should write the messages in our mother tongue. I think that can make a very good sense. You imagine if what young Gen Zs are speaking in Nairobi in English could be translated to all mother tongues and every person in the village could hear it or understand that. That could be very massive. But one point that I've always liked, and I've tried to borrow it in my political conversation, is you anchor our message on our constitution. I've been very constructive in most of my times when I draw my manifestos and my talk directly from the constitution. That the reason why I'm coming in, the reason why I'm challenging this is this constitution we gave to ourselves. Because, for example, the Kenyan constitution it's not the colonial or the independent constitution. We reformed it a bit, and it talks a lot of so many promises. So I come in on the premise to try to us implement the constitution that we gave to ourselves. So I think that's a big lesson we should learn. Then the author talks about the African writers can rail against modern despotism by drawing up on their own rich culture, which is the same thing I've talked about previously. Then he's giving us a very hard work here to do, but it's also very important. Now, the despot's name need not to be mentioned, but the inference is that his rule is an African. And he goes ahead to say, for example, that a message that simply insults the president and says Mugabe must go won't achieve much. Won't achieve much in terms of Mugabe not going, but in terms of even if Mugabe goes, how much will you benefit out of that? And I've been telling people sometimes it's not about Ruto must go, but what do we really want? Yes, Ruto might be one of the person we don't want, but is just a puppet of a system or a symptoms of a failed system. So if you're only focused on the personality of Ruto and forget about that he's an agent of a bigger system that then brings us down, then we'll change Ruto and expect the next person who come in should be a good angel. And the next person will be like Ruto, and then we chase them again without going deep to understand what are the root cause, the systematic approach and patterns that are put in place to subject us to who we are. Now, I'll also comment a bit. I think is a general thing that General Nak started with, that the message should never be about the type of religion, the ideology, or presidents. And I believe ideological conversation is very important for us, the elites, a bit. But how will a mama mboga or a village farmer start to have an understanding of the ideology conversation you want to bring in? It won't make sense to them. So I'll end there by just giving my last comment. And now that Sawindok has handed over to me, I'd like to thank you, Sawindok, for your chairship and for the members who have attended this session today, and to request that we come in a time next time so that we can read more, because we were here earlier now, but I had actually opened this meeting today at 20 minutes before the time because I was home 20 minutes before time. So if you come early enough, we'll have more time at least to share our thinking and read more. But we are looking forward to discuss the disbanding of the military, if time allow next time. We see how that can work out, and maybe also talking about the constitution.
Brother Pigeon.
So those are the few things we're looking forward to. Yes.
You see, it's a little bit tricky here. They say slogans like Mugabe must go will not achieve. And then the very closing sentence with which Brother Anunnaki has started says, whoever would be the best president for the country, those should be avoided. Now, who's the face of this revolution? You see, like in the case of the Gen Z, that's why the revolution was very prone to being hijacked. Because it didn't have a face, so to say. I think if we have got a face that will drive the changes that we want, people will be more receptive to it. Just the thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree with you, and I will not add more on that. Probably that will be the last comment for our session today as a closing remark for us. And yet, to members who have joined us like team, all our past sessions are always on our YouTube channel. So once you get contact with Sawindok, you will get in touch and you'll get all our previous recordings. And this recording as well for this session will be available by either latest Sunday this week. So thank you very much, comrades, for always spending your time. Sister Grace, I'm back again fully. And Sister Tapua, I've now fixed my devices, so I will fully participate for our meeting. I don't want delays moving forward.
Just a comment. Just a comment on the time. 6 o'clock.
Yes.
It's obviously too early for people, especially out here, when people are just coming from work. So you have to get home first, get ready. So by the time you join, time has run out a bit. Whereas before it was 7 o'clock. So it worked out better, but never mind.
No, thank you, Sister. It has never been 7. Just that the UK time changed. Just not that, Sister Chisomo.
I'm saying we were joining at 7 in the UK. It's now 6 o'clock when people are knocking off, going home from work.
Yeah. So we decided, I thank you for raising this. And I think we have decided that all our classes, including the Thursday, we retain the GMT Ghana. Because any change on that I know might be earlier on your side, but in Kenya it might be midnight. But I will try, if it's maybe because of the people out, we can even start 6:30. This is our class, so we can always control it. It's not such rigid like the Thursdays and Saturdays. We can come earlier, but start formally by either 6:30, but we can start earlier in any other conversation we can have, then we start our reading 6:30. At least it can give members, even if they will not be too late for the conversation. So we can actually do our conversation maybe from 6 to 6:30. Then even if it starts 6:30, the members might not be too late to catch up. Would that be helpful, Sister? So,
thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So our class still starts 6. We can have informal conversation like what we were having with Sawindok and anybody else. Then from 6:30, we start our formal reading. Then at least as members catch up, we will continue like that. But we retain it 6 and reading starts 6:30. So anything else we can converse before 6:30. Hope that is helpful for all of us. So thank you very much for your time. And may we have a lovely evening to all of us. And let's meet next Monday. But let's meet Thursday and Saturday for usual CSG meetings. Bye for now.